Good morning everybody, my name is Harry Muppet and this is going to be another cast. I believe this is a gold level game between Gladys, the Protoss, in the top left corner and Petter, the Zerg, in the bottom right corner. So we'll be seeing how these guys go. Yeah, you can see a little bit of chat going on. It sounds like Petter is trying to find out where exactly Gladys is. Just, yeah, not too much going on. Sometimes players do this to say, well, are you a new gold? Are you have you been here a while? Trying to find out if they're actually facing a tough opponent. Looks like Petter is saying, I'm basically a better player than you, then I'm going on up. So we'll see if that actually turns out to be the case. Right now there's not too much going on the production tab, just drone production. Now if we look at the map, we can see that this space is actually pretty good for expansions. We've got the expansion here, which is pretty good. It's got a fairly wide ramp, but still it's better than a completely open expansion. And what we have here as well is the third expansion, which is actually pretty easy to defend. You break open these rocks, and then you hit these rocks, and they actually collapse and cover this entire passage. So you basically got an entire wall in for your third expansion. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see possibly both players take a fast third. And here the fourth is also fairly well defended as well. If you put all your defenses out in this area, you're basically covering the first expansion and this fourth as well. So very, very powerful to get lots of bases. Now you can see that the Zerg is going spawning pool first. I don't know if this means he's going to harass or if this just means he's a little worried, because the map isn't a massive map. So if Gladys wanted to do some zealot rushing, then going expansion first would probably be a problem. And in fact, it's probably because of this pylon. So pylon blocking the first expansion, he's really got no choice but to go spawning pool first. And we can see the gas coming out as well. So I guess he's got to make the most of this and probably get the Zergling speed to support those Zerglings and maybe do a bit of harass. Meanwhile, Gladys is going for, it looks like a wall in. I can't tell. It looks like, actually, no, I'm mistaken there. There is a gap there, which has got that zealot in, so almost a wall in. And yeah, so it looks like he's obviously putting that pylon down. He's expecting the Zerg to maybe do something, so he's going to go ahead and sort of burrow in a little bit. Not going to take, well, it would be a ludicrously fast expansion for the Protoss at this point, but he still might fast expand in a couple of minutes or so. Meanwhile, the Zerg has just gone nuts on the expansions. He's got the third straight away, and I would expect him to get the second right away. So he's I can't say whether he's anticipating the Zerg actually walled in, but he is going for, it looks like, full-on macro at the start of the game, maybe supported by a small amount of Zerglings and Baneling's Nest as well. So I guess that would be a really, really good approach. While you're building up both of these expansions, you basically get a few Banelings and Zerglings out here, try and go for a bust, and get the Protoss even more defensive. So that's going to work. Unfortunately, this mothership core is not a very defensive unit. It's going to go out there, it's going to get a scout off and probably kill some drones, because he's got a queen. But actually, I've never seen a queen versus a mothership core before, so we'll have to see what happens. I have a very strong feeling that the queen will be able to get rid of the mothership core if it comes down to a battle between them. And I don't think this hatchery is going to get taken out before it gets built. However, we'll have to see about after it gets built, because right now getting a queen down here would, yeah, unless the queen can take it out one-on-one, then I would have to say that just the slowness of the queen moving around outside creep would be a major delimiting factor for it. But it's going to go out and it's going to have a go. Maybe it can just scare it off by hitting it a few times. Meanwhile, we have a few banelings and a few zerglings with speed, so we'll see exactly what they can do. And it looks like they will have a job because the Protoss is moving out. He's only got a 3 gate here. Looks like I'd expect him to maybe go for an expansion if this is mildly successful, but I guess he's just going to move out. Going to hold those stalkers back, let the zealots have a chance to get in front, because this is going to be very, very bad for those stalkers. This is looking a bit better, and there's about 5 zealots there. If the banelings get a good hit on the zealots and they're grouped up, then basically this attack is not going to do anything. And honestly, even if the banelings don't get a good hit, I don't see much point of this attack. It's going to push the Zerg back a bit, but really the Zerg hasn't gone all in on the macro as much as I thought he would. He's got the hatcheries up, but he hasn't built a massive amount of drones. He has been concentrating on Zerglings a fair bit, so he's going to be okay, I think. He's still Zealots versus Zerglings, which is of course very bad for the Zerg. I believe with the 18 Zerglings coming in, he could probably overpower them. But if the Protoss keeps warping in forces here, off his still 3 gates, then I believe that eventually the Protoss will be able to wipe him out. If it's just Zerglings, we'll see how good these Banelings are at taking him out. If the Banelings take out these Zealots, he can clean up the Stalkers with the Zerglings, and hopefully he can wipe out this forward warping in point, and then the Zergling can, the Zerg player, sorry, can breathe a bit of a sigh of relief. It all comes down to the Banelings at this point. How many hits on the Zealots they can get. So we'll see what eventuates here. We do have a bit of harass. 2 Zealots down here. We'll see what's going on. It looks like the Zerg is going out. See what they can do, and they just didn't do the damage. I think I saw for a sec a blue highlight on this. I don't know if the Zerg was going to try and take down these rocks, and actually the only route was through here, so he mistakenly moved his army out to this point. But regardless, he did go out there for the attack, and he definitely went off worse. Put the Zerglings out there before he put the Banelings out, and half the Zerglings got wiped out before the Banelings even got in range. So it wasn't the best attack, and of course these gateways over here, even though they're unpowered now, they provide a great wall to funnel the Zerglings out, and I would say the Zerg is in a lot of trouble right now. He needs something more than Zerglings to break through this and to counter the Zealots, and Roaches, you can see here he's building, is exactly what he needs. Now the only bad thing I have to say about the Protoss at this point is that he's not expanding. I mean, he's got a beautiful army, he's got a beautiful contain. The Zerg cannot do anything at the moment. They're stuck in there. Their macro, they've been focusing on the defense, so their macro isn't all that good. If you look at the income, it's 30 versus 17. So the Protoss is actually fully mining this first base. And he's got him contained really well, but he needs to expand. He needs to push this advantage, because if the Zerg manages to do a good job of getting out a bunch of Roaches, then the Protoss is going to have a lot of trouble pushing in. He's got the contain, but pushing in against 10 or 12 Roaches with spine crawlers as backup, it's just not going to happen. He can build Zealots, he can build Stalkers all day, but Roaches are cheaper. The Roaches cost the same as Zealots if you count gas and minerals, and they cost a hell of a lot less than Stalkers, so it's, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see how many Roaches he does build, and we'll see how well they actually do at blocking this out. I really, really would like to see the Protoss get a second expansion, just as a backup, because if this doesn't work, then the Zerg's on 2 bases and the Protoss is on 1, and The Protoss might still be okay, but not. He wouldn't be well into the lead, which is what he would be if he got an expansion. But we'll see how this works. He's moving in. He's got some force fields in there to try and help out. Needs to move the roaches in now. Needs to start doing that damage. Needs to start whittling those zealot numbers down, and he's doing that. The zealots are dwindling very fast. There's more zealots coming in, but I think the Zerg has a decent chance of pushing this back. Maybe. There are more zealots coming in though, and that's going to be a problem. Spine crawlers are all down, but these zealots are all down, and I think these roaches should be able to clean up these forces relatively well. Now, the Protoss is warping in more, but I think at this point, the Protoss isn't going to be able to overwhelm the Zerg base. He's got to regroup. He's got to think of something else. He's pushing, but he's running out of minerals as well. He doesn't have the second base. If he had the second base, he'd have minerals coming out of his ass, and he could constantly be building stuff. But right now, he's winning, but he's not winning by a lot. He's barely beating the Zerg out on unit count. And I'm sorry, I keep harping on about this, but it's the second base. If he had the second base, and this mothership core is good. I mean, the Zerg is not going to have anything to deal with that. He can have queens, but queens are not going to help him at this main expansion. And this, I don't understand this move. You don't go for the cannons. You've got more important things to worry about than the cannons. You've got these stalkers constantly coming up the ramp and making your life misery. So let's see. He's lost this hatchery, and that's going to be a significant reduction for the amount of roaches that he produces, and he's given the GG. So the Protoss has definitely managed to eke out a win there with his forces. He's definitely gone ahead and made good use of this wall-in. So just going out there, he had enough income to get the job done. He didn't end up going for anything massive, which I think was a mistake, but he kept the pressure on, and the Zerg was at a disadvantage because of this base going down, and I think most of the miners were actually at this base. Compared to this base, of course, the main base had the most. But yeah, maybe he should have macroed a bit more. He got scared at the start, and he started building a lot of Zerglings. So the Zerg's macro was quite a bit behind, to be honest. If this pylon wasn't there, if he got the hatchery down, then he might have been in a better position. But yeah, he instead. Now this is just my opinion, but I think at the start, instead of going massive amount of Zerglings to push off this mostly Zealot and Stalker incursion, I think he should have put about 3 or 4 spine crawlers up here, gone less Zerglings, and maybe just enough to scare them off, because 3 or 4 spine crawlers would have scared off that Protoss force, and maybe they could have surrounded it, but you go straight for roaches up there. He wasted a lot of money on Zerglings and Banelings, and the fact is they didn't really do that much. They got out there and they destroyed some forces, but the Protoss just had too many Zealots, and the Banelings didn't get any good hits off. And as soon as he lost those Zerglings and Banelings, he was behind, and he didn't have a chance to catch up. He had to spend all his income on roaches just to push back this advancing wave, and he had nothing left for drones, and it was just a matter of time, I guess, before the Protoss eventually won out. So that's the end of this game. Also, I'd like to mention that I've been pulling these replays off a site. I can't remember what this site exactly is. It's like SC2 Game Replays or something like that, but I have a feeling I'm going to run out of replays at some point if I start casting very enthusiastically. So I've set up an email address called xhairymuppetx@yahoo.com.au. I'll post that below in this video. If you watch this video and you feel like you've played a game and you'd like me to cast it, go ahead and send it to that email address, and I'll give it a cast. I'm trying not to cast Masters and Grandmasters games at the moment, because basically I'm just sort of ramping up to that. Eventually I will cast them, but at the moment I don't think I'm quite good enough to be there. However, if you are a Masters player or a Grandmasters player, by all means, feel free to send me, and I'll give it a crack. Don't send me replay packs from Grandmasters and Masters that are not you. If you've just sent your own replayers, if you're at Gold or Diamond or some league like that. But yeah, I'll have a go, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you very much for listening, and this has been Hairy Muppet.